We just get a 1 minute, I guess.
All right, Mr. Nelson, you are good to go.
All right, we're good to go. All right, well, I'd like to call to order our first virtual school board meeting for Columbia County that I'm aware of. We have 3 of our board members currently present, Stephanie Johns, Keith Hudson, and myself. I believe the other 2 are trying to get in, and hopefully they'll be able to join us soon. Before we start our meeting, I'd like to invite the superintendent to do our invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Let us pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you today. We thank you for this time, Lord, that we can gather, even though virtually. We just thank you, Lord, for what you're doing for our school district and the blessings you've given our school district. And we can pray and ask that you continue to bless our district, bless our students, bless our seniors, Lord, who are going through a tough time right now, not being able to participate in fun things that they normally do. Just lift up everybody that's in our Columbia County schools, Lord, just the work that they're doing and everything going on, Lord. We thank you for what you've done so far, guiding us through this. And we pray and ask that you continue to guide us. Bless this board today, Lord, as we make decisions. For in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Please join me with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. We received no emails regarding a request for public comment for this meeting. I just want to confirm that with Superintendent.
Yes, sir. As of 10, we checked at 10:05, and then we checked again at 11 o'clock. But the rules were you had to report or send it to us by 10 a.m. We had 0. Thank you.
All right. So at this point, I'll move on to closing and adopting the agenda. Board members, you should have that copy. Is there any questions, or would you like to move on to adopting that agenda?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, I would like to make this, I need to remove action item 6B. It's a duplicate of what we're doing in 5. So 6B, we need to remove because we're doing it in 5.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Fennell. Or excuse me, Ms. Johns.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to adopt and approve the agenda with the changes of action item 6B.
All right. Do we have a second, Mr. Hudson?
Mr. Chairman, I second that motion.
Thank you both. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on approving the agenda? All those in support, say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, motion carries. The first item is a public hearing. Ms. Lauren, are we going to do that like we typically would since we don't have the publicly present, or would you like to guide me through that just a little bit?
Sure, I'd be glad to. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, the rules for public comment in this situation were the same as public comment on any action item. They were done by email 2 hours prior. So I think you can go ahead and open a public hearing. Simply note that we have not received any pursuant to the email address we set up. Close the public hearing, vote for both motions.
Okay. Hearing that recommendation from our attorney, I will open the public hearing for the emergency policy related to school board meetings. This is 2.051. I would like to note that we have had no public requests for comment sent in through our email system. And at this time, we will close the public hearing and reopen our regular meeting to approve the emergency policy relating to school board meetings, policy 2.051. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the emergency policy related to school board meetings 2.051.
Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I second that.
All right, I have a motion and second to approve policy 2.051. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We'll now reopen a public hearing for the emergency declaration of authority during COVID-19. This is policy 3.031. Again, we received no public requests for comment for this policy. So at this point, we'll close the public hearing, open our regular meeting to approve the emergency declaration of authority during COVID-19 3.031. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve that.
We have a motion. Second.
Second.
We have a motion and sorry, trying to keep us going here. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that policy? All right, those in favor of the policy signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We're now in our action item section of the day. And
Mr. Chair.
yes, sir.
This is Lex. I just want to point out for the record that Board Member Dana Brady Giddens has joined.
Oh, great. We're glad to have you with us, Ms. Giddens. All right, so again, we're at approval of personnel items. It's a pretty short list today, but Mr. Superintendent, are all those personnel items in order?
Yes, sir.
Chairman,
Okay. We have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I so move we approve the personnel.
All right,
Second.
we have a motion and a second regarding the approval of personnel. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Motion carries. Item B was removed. We'll move on to action item C, which is the approval of resolution pound 2020-001 for the sale of property easement located at Columbia High School to Florida Power and Light Gulf Power. And I believe we have the attachments on that. Mr. Superintendent, any comments on that before we move forward?
No, sir. We've been working on this for quite a while with Ms. Logan and legal, and everything's clear for approval if y'all so desire.
All right, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, I'd like, go ahead, Mr. Hudson.
Mr. Hudson?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve it. I do have some questions on it. I'm going to make a motion.
All right, we'll get a motion and a second, then we'll have some discussion. Do we have a second on the motion?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We're at discussion. Go ahead, Ms. Hudson.
And looking over all the paperwork on this, I saw the map and the survey where it's going to be. And if I understand it correctly, they're paying us $15,000 for that?
Correct.
Okay, and that was an appraisal was done on that to come to that price.
Yes, and just to give you a little bit of background, the appraisal itself, I mean, keep in mind, we're not selling the property. We're just giving them an easement through the property. The appraisal itself, I think, was somewhere around $4,000. And then they added in additional funds for costs and just because, quite honestly. So that's how it was originally at 10, and then they increased the offer to 15,000.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. Any other questions regarding resolution 2020-001?
No.
All right, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Motion carries. We're now at the consent agenda for the meeting. Everything there appears to be in order. Mr. Superintendent, anything to add, or is all that correct? I assume so.
I'm sorry. I tried to mute and I think it's a little odd. Everything is correct. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you very much. All right, what's the pleasure of the board regarding the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion. Do we have a second to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
All right, motion and second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if
Yes,
we
sir.
have anybody online that could tell me about the bid, the amount that it was, and how much was, I'd like to know how much was budgeted for that amount, for that job?
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
Yes, Mr. Carswell.
I've got Todd Wittergren and Fred Gaylord, Bonnie Penner's on the line, so I'm going to turn it over to Todd in his office. We are paying for these out of CONDS fund. which is the most restricted funds that we can use. It does not come out of our 1.5 mil, nor does it come out of our general funds. The price of the construction project has gone up substantially. And so at this time, I will let Mr. Whittaker and Mr. Hatcher, and I believe Mr. Gaylord in that room talk.
Gentlemen, I'll open it up.
Good afternoon, Mr. Hudson and fellow board members. To answer your question, we had right at $1.1 million budgeted for the project, and the actual recommended bid award is $1,017,877. It's within budget, which includes the architect's fees and all. When you add those to the bid price, it's still within budget. I don't know if you have any other specific questions about it other than that. You're aware of the fact that we actually bid the job roughly a year ago, and we didn't have adequate funds to do it at that time. And we actually deferred the project until we had the correct dollar amount budgeted for it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I have a question. Since we bid it last time, I know at the time we bid it, it came in over the amount that we had budgeted for it. And that's a lot more today than it was a year ago. I'm just wondering if the scope of the work has increased, or is the bid climate gone up that much in a year? Mr. Gaylord, what was the bid a year ago, approximately a year ago when we bid?
The bid was $999,000, right at $1 million. And so what we used to establish the budget for this rebid was we took that dollar amount, added 10%, and then added in the architectural fees. And that 10% allowed us to have a contingency. So that's how we determined the budget amount for this bid.
So the scope of the work hasn't increased or decreased, it's not what it was.
No, sir, it's still the same job. Same scope of work, yes, sir.
Now, I noticed there were a couple of bids that were less than the bid that Gray submitted. They were slightly less, not much less, but we need to discuss why we rejected their bids and didn't go with the lowest bid. At least let's put it on the record why we didn't do that.
Mr. Hatcher's going to speak to that, Mr. Hudson.
Yes, sir. Mr. Hudson, we had two bids that came in. Both of those bids did not have a couple of subcontractors listed, some very crucial subcontractors that were listed. And so it was one of those issues where Mr. Gaylord and I talked, and one of those issues where we couldn't determine how exactly they came up with their low bid price because they had their subs missing. And so after discussion, we decided to disqualify those bids because they did not submit their subcontractors as the bid indicated they should.
Well, do they understand that? Have they been talked with on that, or do we not talk to them?
Yes, they understand that.
And what was their answer to that? I mean, they should have known what they should do. Probably it's not the first time they ever bid a project, and they should have known.
Well, exactly. And Blackwater wasn't too happy, but I guess they understood. There's been no bid protest filed, so we're good to move forward.
How many days do they have to file a protest?
They have 72 hours, not including weekends.
Okay, and that length of time is passed?
Yes, sir, it is passed.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. Any further discussion?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right. I'll call for the vote. This is to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign? Motion carries. Consent agenda. We'll now move on to our board member comments. I'm going to mix it up just a little bit. I'm going to let the superintendent go first. I think he had a few things you wanted to cover. If you're all right with that, Mr. Superintendent, I'll let you go first. That way, if anybody has any questions, we can question as we go.
Yes, thank you. Just wanted to point out to the board members what a great job our food service and our transportation, everyone's doing, passing out the meals, the bus meals on wheels and at the local sites. As you're aware, we had a case of COVID-19 in our family. A month ago now, we did have ServPro go in and officially clean Niblack Elementary School so that we have a certified company go in and make sure that it was scrubbed well. The whole distance learning, it's unbelievable how well it's going. We have the 1,350 of the best employees in the state. Our teachers, our students, our support staff, everybody has just worked remarkably well to make, I believe, a leader in the state of the way we're doing things. At the very beginning, Todd and Hope came up with a plan of having a phase 1, a phase 2, and a phase 3 distance learning. Phase 1 was the first 2 weeks. Phase 2 went out April 13th, I think, and phase 3 is going to go out May 4th to finish out the rest of the year. So we haven't had to adjust one single thing since we started this whole process back in spring break as far as our distance learning. Some good news is that the governor opened up a grant for small and rural districts, and we were awarded 1,200 Chromebooks. We have not received them yet to help us with this distant learning. And so until we get them, we really can't do anything more than what we're doing now. I will say this, that both high schools are working very hard and doing a great job of making sure every senior is communicated with and every senior has an opportunity to graduate this year. And we are pulling out all stops. If a student needed a device and needed a computer to finish up some online Edgenuity classes, credit recovery, we're working very hard to make sure they come and get what they need for seniors to graduate. The last thing I'll say is, as a district, we've developed a plan, and it's a fluid plan, but it's called May 2021. And what that means is that we want everybody in our district that's not a senior this year to be where they should be in May of 2021. In other words, we've got about 15 or 16 months to get everybody caught up. And what that's going to mean is in July, you're going to see some boot camp type things for end of course exams for next year. For those kids that are going to have to take an end of course exam next year, we're going to open up in July, if we're allowed to by then, I hope we can, a boot camp to help them come in and get remediation and some enrichment so that they can move forward. We're probably going to open up some kind of boot camp at a school for second and third graders, for those kids that are next year. This current second grade class will have to take the third grade assessment next year, so we want to bring them in this summer. And then the current third graders are probably going to move on to fourth grade without a large parent input to stay third grade. And so we want to bring both of those groups in. Our ESE department's working overtime and doing a great job, and you approved some things today to help some of those ESE contractors work virtually. Before, their contract was so tight before, they had to see physically. Now they can work virtually, and we appreciate y'all approving those. But the entire district is just working unbelievably hard and doing a great job, and I'm proud of everything that's going on right now. And I will entertain any questions.
Before I kind of move to the board members for questions, I'm gonna take a little privilege from the chair seat just a second. Let's talk a little bit about graduation if we could, guys. Y'all are probably getting the same questions I'm getting. Are we gonna have one? What are we gonna do? Lex, I know you're working with both principals at both schools to try to figure out what we're gonna be able to do. Is there a plan at this point, or are we still waiting? I mean, we know we're not gonna go back in school, so we know we're not gonna be there. The governor's stay-at-home order, I think, goes away the end of the month, but he could extend that order. So, do we have anything in the works?
Yes, sir. We are making plans. We're not set to announce a postponement of either one of the graduations until the 1st of May. I think we all can assume that we will be postponing graduation May 22nd at Fort White, May 29th at Community High School. The plan right now is that we will have graduation on campus. We are not even entertaining a virtual graduation. We're not entertaining a drive-through graduation. We're not entertaining anything but an absolute on-the-field graduation for seniors sometime, hopefully this summer, if not early fall. We're looking at everything. We're looking at maybe having a homecoming type event where we have graduation on a Saturday morning after homecoming. Everything's on the table, but we want the seniors to know, hey, we feel for them, we understand it, like what we said earlier at the very beginning of the meeting, but we will have graduation on the field with, hopefully with parents and family in the stands. And so we're just kind of waiting for the governor to decide what we're going to do at the end of May. Hopefully he'll make that announcement next week or sooner than that. But I don't see graduation being May 22nd, 29th. But we will have graduation, and both principals are adamant that we're going to have graduation on the field as much as normal as possible.
And I do appreciate their being adamant about that. But one of the concerns I have is even if we release the stay-at-home order, I'm not sure they're going to release it for large crowds together. So that possibly through the summer, maybe even into the fall. So, I mean, there are discussions about whether the college football games are going to be able to get 80,000 people in a stadium, in August. So if we can't do that, and I think we need to kind of think along the track of that we can't. So there are some options out there that I've heard that, they're not perfect. For instance, I was reading one the other day. I can't remember the school district that they're going to do. They're going to have every child come in with their parents to walk across the stage and giving them a time. So you're basically, spreading it out. And it would take a couple of days to probably get that work through. And then you video all of it and compile it into one big graduation. That's an option. I'm not saying that's where I want to go. I'm just saying we need to start thinking if we can't get 5,000 people together in a stadium, what are we going to do?
And that's exactly right. And we are thinking along those lines. I don't want to go down that trail though till we have to, but that is something that we can do. Patrick has the ability to stream all our graduations. We've done it the last couple of years where we stream the graduations worldwide. So I think what you're saying would be absolutely the backup plan. If we go into the late July and early August where we still can't get 5,000 people together, then yes, I think we have to start making decisions. I will say this, we've got kids enlisted in the military that go off to boot camp in early June. We are working right now on having a private graduation ceremony for those kids. They will graduate, will get their diploma. I will hand it to them. Their parents will be there. We'll do it as much as we can with distance learning, but we're accommodating as much as we can special occasions for graduation.
And I think we should. The other side is that you got a lot of kids that will be going off to college in August as well, if they can. So would they even be available if we push it that far off? So look, I think we just need to start some more discussion at this point, more than anything else. We could sit here and belabor it all day. I don't think we need to, but that's just some of the concerns I've had. I'll open it up to, actually we'll kind of go down the roll if you want and let everybody just have some time to talk about anything. Why don't we start with Ms. Johns? Would you like to comment first?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I had the same thoughts as Mr. Nelson. I think that we definitely need to go ahead and have Plan B and not wait until the last minute, because I'm very concerned about the students that may go off to college, that will go off to college. So, I don't want them to miss out if we can keep from that happening. So I think we're going to have to consider Plan B and possibly Plan C sooner than what we're thinking.
Yep.
I can't hear Mr. Carswell.
I'm sorry. I was talking to the people in the room. What I was saying, I wasn't trying to be private. It was what I was saying is that I think we need to have a plan, like let's say July 21st, 22nd. I'm just making up a date. If we don't have the clearance to meet as a group by then, that we would set July 21st and 22nd, whatever that. And I've got the calendar on. So July 24th, let's say that's a Friday night. If we don't have a plan, if the governor's not allowing us to meet in large groups by then, July 24th, we'll start implementing some kind of virtual graduation and do what you said about bringing them to the auditorium or bringing them out on the field and parents and family with the social distancing rules, guidelines are in place, then we would celebrate some kind of graduation. So I agree. Plan A would be to hold off and let's have us all 5,000 people at Columbia High and 3,000 people at Fort White High School. Plan B would be, say, July 24th, and I'm just making this date up. We would start and implement a virtual graduation.
Ms. Johns, anything else?
I think that is it. The only thing I was going to ask something else. I know that at one point you sent us an email or message. I think you said 97% of people had picked up their packets and were on distance learning. Are we still on track with that? And how are we doing statistically there with our distance learning?
Yes, 97% was the last official number I had, but it is more than that. Since then, we've had principals reach it because when you only have 3%, that's a pretty easy number to reach out and find out. We're probably in the 98% now. We're not getting everybody because some kids have moved off to, self-quarantine or self-isolate out of town. But we're in the 98% right now. And that's kudos to our principals and our teachers. I mean, we're communicating more with students now than we ever have probably before because of the way we're doing it. So yeah, I'll get the official number from our schools, but we're in the 98% right now, which is very good.
A question, because you can answer this. Are the teachers calling the students and parents? I've had a few complaints that they're not staying in touch. So that was a concern I had.
Right. We told the principals and we told the teachers that they need to communicate with their students several times each week. We told them that an email out to a mass group of students does not count. Emails count if they're getting correspondence back and forth. We're actually tracking and logging in every time we talk to them. So if you've got a parent, let's say Johnny Appleseed's mom's called and said nobody's calling from the school, if you'll let me know, I can call that principal and we can contact that teacher, and that teacher's got a list of how many times they talked to Johnny Appleseed. So we're tracking this. The teachers are doing a fantastic job by and large. That's not to say that there's not a few gaps in the system, but if you'll have those parents email me their concerns and email their principal. I mean, their principal want to know which teachers aren't contacting, not doing what they should do. But we're tracking attendance through our communication logs with our students.
Okay, perfect. Last thing, Mr. Chair, I just want to thank you, Mr. Carswell. I know you've put in a lot of long, hard hours. It's been stressful. You definitely are on the front line as well, not just us as healthcare providers. So I want to thank you for everything you're doing. I know you've lost a lot of sleep over what's going on, and you've got a lot of people in their lives and livelihood in your hands. And thank you and the other administration. Please spread that to them. And I know others are listening, but thank you all of you for doing what you're doing. This is some trying times, but I believe with our hard work and continuous hard work and family our district as a family, that we're going to make it through this, and our faith, and continue to pray for you, Mr. Carswell.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johns. Mr. Hudson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to say thanks to Mr. Carswell and his administrative staff. As usual, they work hard in front of the curve. We don't wait and sit around and see what other people or other districts are doing. We're out there doing it ourselves. And we don't really know where we're going to be in 30 days or 60 days from now. But you're looking at all plans, alternative plans. And that's really good. We'll have some kind of plan, and we won't sit around and wait on to see what other people do. And I appreciate that, and I want to say thanks to the entire staff for the work they're doing, and to the people in the community who have been along with us on this and understanding, difficult as it is. Never seen anything like this, of course, but we're understanding. And I want to thank them and Carswell. Great job for you. You say kudos to everybody else. Well, kudos to you for a great job you're doing. Mm-hmm. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. Ms. Dana Giddens, are you on?
She sent me a text earlier that she was on, but she was having difficulty talking and she was hearing sporadically. So she may have checked out now that the board meeting's kind of voting's done. So she was on, but she may not be able to communicate.
No problems. Ms. Lauren, do you have any comments?
Nope, nothing to add.
All right. Well, I'll wrap us up a little bit here. Just, I want to echo some of the things that Stephanie and Keith were both saying. I've heard a lot of great things in our district over the last few weeks. There's been trying times, but I've heard parents and students making comments and posting things on social media. I haven't seen any negative, to be honest with you. I've had some with a little bit of confusion, but no negative. And once they've kind of worked through some of the confusion, I think it's doing real well considering where we are. Hold on one moment. My laptop just went out on me. There we go. I do want to take one thing real quick. As a father of a 2020 senior, I didn't think we would be where we are today with these kids. They put 13 years into it, and we've cut off the last little bit. The good bit, if you want to think about it that way. If you think back on all of our senior years, when was the fun? The fun was the last 3 or 4 months of school. So we've took that away. We didn't take it. COVID's taken it away from these kids. So I want to do everything we can do for the end of this year. I want to make sure they get something. And we need to really work on that graduation. We need to really work on anything we can do to make them have something to remember that's positive and not just the negative. The interaction that I've seen my daughter at home on her iPad with all of her friends on it. And I mean, I know that that's something, but it's not filling in the hole that is there that I wish wasn't. So, and I know we can't fix that 100%, but we need to do all we can do as a board, as a district, to do what we can for those folks. And not just because my daughter's there, but because every child that's graduating from either of our high schools deserve it. I know Mr. Dana Brady Giddens' daughter's graduating and my daughter's graduating, but there's a whole lot of other parents out there that daughters and sons are graduating as well. And they deserve that opportunity to see their kid get some awards, get some, get whatever. I mean, we even talked about awards day. There is not one. What are we going to do for scholarships? There's a whole lot of stuff out there we haven't talked about that I really think the district needs to come up with a good plan and have that out fairly quickly. I don't want to wait until the last week of school to make the determination what we're going to do. We need to make it now so that families can plan and have things done. I don't want to wait till the last thing. I don't want to wait until July to make the decision. Are we going to do something virtual? I think that's too dang late. We need to do it now. We need to, in the next few weeks, we need to figure out what we're going to do and stick with it. And, it's time. But that's me on my soapbox, and I'm going to get off of it now. Yes, sir.
Chair, just to make a few things, I agree with you 100%. I think this morning both high schools are presenting all the seniors, the graduation class of 2020 signed to go in the yard. I know that's not a big deal. Along the lines of what we did last year with the high five signs, every graduating senior is getting one of those, I believe, this morning. If I'm not mistaken. We are having some discussions about whether or not we can still hold a prom. I know both high schools are planning now for scholarship night and how we can do that some way, somehow virtually. They're collecting the information now to get that done. So I agree with you, and you struck a chord with me as well. I will start getting both high schools to start developing their end of the year senior calendar like we always put out. So we'll put that out pretty quickly, hopefully in the next week or two, that has all the dates and times of how we plan on honoring our seniors this year.
Yeah, I think it needs to go out sooner rather than later.
Mr. Chair, may I?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
The same thing about the senior awards and honors. I think that if it's not where we can do it in a crowd, basically the same thing. Maybe take a day, bring the student and the parents in, just like Mr. Nelson mentioned before with graduation. But bring the students and the parents in, and let the principal or whoever give them their award. Mr. Superintendent, do you know if the scholarships that these students apply for, they're due usually by March the 1st, I think. I can't remember. Mr. Nelson, you may know, you have a senior right now, but I think what I'm remembering is about March 1st, around there. Do you know if these community scholarships are still on board? Are they following suit? Are they still giving these scholarships, or are things just not good and can't? Do you know?
I don't know of a single one that's not on board that has been on board that wanted to be on board. We are collecting that information. I get emails every day from the schools asking for information about what seniors and what scholarships are available and who's applying for which scholarships. So they're collecting that data now. It's not ready now, but it will be ready early May. So I think by early May, we should have it out for the seniors, how and when we're going to honor everybody and when we're going to be able to have scholarship night and things like that. So scholarships have not changed. And so we just have to figure out how to honor them and how to recognize our seniors in a way that's befitting them and the situation that we're in.
Okay. And I'm going to back Mr. Nelson on this one as far as, I don't want to wait till the last minute. I think that, again, if we can't meet as a big group, and looking on the healthcare part of this, if we can't meet as a big group, government-wise, whatever, we need to go ahead and consider just taking a day or two and bringing in the student, bringing in the parents, and letting them go ahead and present like that. And I think Trey is sending a text or something about scholarships have been collected. So, but
well, hold on just a second. Trey wants to talk. Let me see if I can get him on the phone. And I'm just going to put him on speakerphone because this is an important topic. So let me get Trey. Let me see if I can figure out how to work the telephone. I usually can work it pretty good, but with everybody watching me. Okay, so I'm calling Trey right now. He's going to be. Hello, Mr. Hosford, you're on the speakerphone in the board meeting right now. So there's been a lot of questions about graduations. Can you mute whatever you're at? I'm hearing a lot of.
I might need to get away from my computer.
Yeah.
Let me get away from my computer so I don't. All right. Well, I know the scholarship. I was just trying to text. The scholarship paperwork, we collected our scholarship papers. They were due a couple weeks ago. I just walked in, there's a box sitting there, but we let them sit for a few days before we started sending people to go through those, because we're doing our best not to touch the papers that come in. So we're within probably just a few days of being able to go through those. So we're still planning on doing that. Scholarship night, possibly do a virtual thing. We have to talk about that. Academic signing day, which is a big thing for kids. We have that planned. They can turn in. We extended the deadline, I believe, tomorrow. That was put on Tiger Town multiple times to that deadline. And actually, my wife is the one that helped with that. She's received lots of those students reaching out to her with their acceptance letters, and they're going to be sending in pictures to her, and there's going to be a video put out. They're still having some type of signing ceremony. As far as the class of 2020, I know Mr. Nelson was passionate about it, and rightfully so, with his daughter and Miss Brady Gibbons too, with her daughter. I can assure you, and I can keep what Molly speaks for him, we're doing everything we can to make the best out of a bad situation. And I understand the virtual, people are going virtual graduation, but I know, and I haven't talked to every senior, every parent, but I know that the ones that I have spoken to, when I've made multiple statements that we're going to have a graduation, whenever that may be on this field, I think the majority of the ones I've spoken to like that they're going to be able to walk across that field and hear their name called. And I hear the same things. I know that a couple of you are in the medical field and know a lot more about it than I do. But I don't know how long it's going to last. I told Mr. Carswell the scary thing for trying to pick a date right now and say, hey, let's shoot for July 25th to be graduation, and then they extend it to August. Well, then do we tell them now we're canceling the other graduation or postponing the other graduation we had scheduled? So, I've spoken to Mr. Carswell, Mr. Wintergren probably 1,000 times in the last month. We discussed it, and Mr. Cooney as well. And I know you guys are talking about Plan B and C, but Plan A can still happen on that field. And I know people are going to be going away And I think that's one of the things when we do set a date, we give them time so they know that they can come. Mr. Carswell, just this week, I think it was yesterday or Friday, it might have been Friday, he reached out to us, something I haven't even thought of, those that are enlisting in the military. So I compiled a list yesterday, and I know Mr. Coy's doing the same for kids that are leaving and when they're leaving this summer, so that we can have something for the kids that are going to defend our freedoms, because they've earned that too. So I promise you that both me and Mr. Coy are doing everything in our power. Mr. Coy's got a son graduating, to do something for this class. And I originally, I wasn't even thinking about prom. And then talking to kids over the last week, they're going to get a prom too, whatever that may be. So we're going to do it. We're going to honor them and make it a night they'll never forget.
Trey, I appreciate all of that. I do. Can you hear me? I guess you can. I hope you can. Again, my concern is kind of how long are we going to go off with it? Are we going to say we're going to do a graduation in July or whatever, but then it changes? So as a parent, you know, I would rather know right now we are or we aren't going to have something on the field, you know, or fairly quickly, so that I can plan, so that we can kind of work around some things. I would love to have it on the field as well. The history of doing that is phenomenal, and that's where I'd love to have it. But again, I don't think we're going to have, my personal opinion, and talking with a lot of healthcare experts, is groups, large groups, are not going to be back together by July. So I could be wrong. I'm not perfect. But at the same time, we need to start thinking about what we're going to do. I don't know if we can kind of throw this back to the students a little bit. Let's get their leadership groups involved and say, if we can't do this, what would you like? You know, the students elected their leaders, let their group kind of come up with some ideas. I'm fine with that. But I just really think that if we're scheduling a on the field graduation for July based on the fact that we think we might be open, is not a good plan.
We'll work on that. Just on behalf of both high schools, let me just say that we'll work on that, and we'll come up with a plan, Mr. Nelson, all of y'all board members. We'll look at the next couple of weeks and coming out with the plan. I do agree, maybe getting the students' input would be a good idea. And so I'll get with Mr. Hudson and Mr. Cooey and Mr. Hosser and come up with a plan, and a printed plan.
All right. Does any other board members have any other comments?
I think that's it.
All right. Well, thank everybody for getting together for this virtual historic meeting of the board. Mr. Hudson, you hadn't done this one before, have you?
This is the first.
He's got more history than any of us, but he can add this one to the list.
And
All right, guys.
I'll put this as a chapter in the book.
All right, guys. Thank y'all again, and we appreciate everything everybody's doing. And Lex, I appreciate you very much. But we're going to call this one adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.